Look, I'm one of those who grew up playing the classic Double Dragon in the arcade, spending token after token to kick ass around the city with the Lee brothers. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw the first trailers for Double Dragon Revive, I got that chill, you know? That feeling of, are they going to ruin the memory I have? But after seeing the game running for real, I realized that the guys at Arc System works, and Ukes aren't just throwing nostalgia on the screen. They're taking that formula that we loved and really improving it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. The 7 things that Double Dragon Revive does better than the older games. It's not hate on the classics, far from it, but it's time to admit that some aspects of those games were limited by the technology of the time. Revive took the essence of the beat-em-up that defined the genre in 1987 and brought it to the present day, maintaining the soul, but with mechanics that make you feel more in control, more powerful, more strategic. Let's see what's changed for the better. Double Dragon Revive arrives with a combat that feels much more thoughtful and sophisticated than the classic old beat-em-ups. The evident influence of the Arc System Works team, famous for fighting games, leaves the combat with a fluidity and depth that surprises, even for those who enjoy the traditional style. There is an excellent sense of responsiveness in the controls that makes each hit, block, and counterattack seem intentional, never a bunch of buttons being pressed without control. This is a huge leap for those who want something beyond the classic button mashing. The combo system has been refined, requiring more skill to be mastered, but without being inaccessible. It's curious how they keep each character with a unique set of blows and special attacks that demand timing and positioning, just like in a more technical fighting game. This depth gives that taste that you can create your own style, something that classic games almost never allowed. You can feel that the team really studied what made the classics successful, and sought to evolve without losing their identity. The presence of the Dragon Orb bar and the attacks called Hyper Blow and Finishing Blow introduce a very cool strategic layer, which was not seen before. It's not just going out hitting, but thinking about when to use your resources to turn the game around, break the enemy's defense or control groups. This creates that delicious adrenaline of a fighting game, where a good execution can change everything around you, increasing involvement. It's as if Double Dragon Revive was a natural hybrid between the beat-em-up and the fighting game that many fans have always wanted. It is also noticeable the game's choice to avoid full simplicity. Even with some accessibility, the difficulty is fair and challenging, requiring the player to understand the system, respond to attacks with counterattacks, and explore the full potential of the available moveset. This makes playing rewarding not only for passing the phase, but for mastering the fight, which generates a very personal connection with the game, different from that more repetitive feeling of the old ones. For me, this refinement of combat is what keeps the flame of the series alive without sounding outdated or simplistic. It's as if they had taken what was classic and brought it to today, with an expertise that only a studio with a pedigree in fighting games could provide. This feeling makes me revisit the genre with renewed eyes, more excited to explore every nuance of the system than in any other recent title. Finally, the visual transformation to 3D does not compromise the clarity and precision of the combat, which is essential for this technical expertise to shine. The result is a game that respects the essence of the old beats, but delivers something much more agile, technical, and full of personality for modern and old fans who seek a real evolution in style. The accelerated pace of Double Dragon Revive impresses when controlling large groups of enemies. Unlike most classics, where everything has a somewhat rigid time, here the combat flows with much more speed and naturalness, making you feel like you are in the middle of a real intense and chaotic street fight. With the action unfolding at high speed but without losing control, the way the game manages crowds is smart, because even with several enemies on the screen, the feeling is not of confusion or uncontrolled chaos. The system includes strategic ways to separate enemies, generate moments of tactical advantage, and use the environment to disperse opponents, which requires a more tactical and quick approach instead of the old attack and run. This requires you to always be aware and make quick choices to take advantage of the gaps, which makes the gameplay more dynamic and less repetitive. Cooperation and multiplayer also elevates the pace and management of these crowds. Playing with someone allows you to coordinate attacks, make double combos and even exclusive combos that depend on interaction with the partner, creating an extra layer of rhythm and strategy rarely seen in games of the old generation. In a way, this game brings back that vibe of social arcade, but enhancing what online and current technology can offer to make the experience more fluid and fun. Another thing that catches my attention is how the game encourages the use of special movements and combos to clean crowds in key moments, maintaining that feeling of controlled turmoil where you have to think fast. but also can have fun with the feeling of dominating a real battle against several opponents simultaneously. It's not a simple licked beat 'em up, but a title that understands what makes the genre special and takes it to another modern level. The game still has the concern to balance the enemies so that you never feel too suffocated, but also never get bored. Each phase and group of enemies are designed to maintain pressure and rhythm without letting the action fall. This is one of the things I value most in a modern beat 'em up. The ability to hold the player to the limit, but without tiring or frustrating, and Double Dragon Revive hits this dose well in the explosion of action. Personally, this combination of accelerated rhythm with crowd management brings a flow of adrenaline that catches in a different way than the old games. It's as if the challenge was more mental and strategic, not just reflexes, making the experience more engaging and refreshing for old fans who seek something new, and for newcomers who want emotion without the feeling of mashing buttons. Double Dragon Revive reinvents the rhythm of street battles for a modern context. Where speed is high, strategy is fundamental, and chaos is always one step away from total control, creating a combination that seems to me one of the greatest advances of the genre in recent years. The interaction with the scenarios is one of the aspects that most excites me in Double Dragon Revive, mainly because it goes far beyond the simple visual background, transforming the environment into an active part of the gameplay. You can use elements of the scenario as improvised weapons, throwing objects against the enemies, which adds a very fun and varied layer to the combat, giving the feeling that everything around you can become a fighting tool in your favor. In addition, the game employs many traps and gimmicks in the environments, such as moving cars, electric poles, and walls that can be used to cause extra damage or even instant attacks, which not only brings a strategic aspect, but also makes the fights more cinematic and explosive. For me, this brings a unique seasoning and unites well the classic of the beat 'em up with a more modern and immersive footprint. I love the fact that I can throw opponents against these elements to provoke special attacks or combos because this interaction encourages the player to observe more what happens on the stage, creating a gameplay that mixes action with quick thinking and creativity. This also makes the battles less predictable and more personalized because each fight can have several developments depending on how you take advantage of the environment. The scenario is not only useful in combat, but also contributes to the narrative and the overall atmosphere of the game, helping to contextualize the conflict between the characters and the enemies within that dark city full of gangs. This combination of design and interactivity makes the game breathe more life in a genre that sometimes suffers from static and unengaging environments. Another positive point is the use of realistic physics in the interaction with weapons and objects, which gives weight and impact to the actions and makes you feel true pleasure when you hit an enemy with a blow using the scenario. This fidelity helps to create a more visceral, urgent, and authentic feeling, which makes me like more and want to experience all the possibilities that the environment offers. The interaction with the scenario also expands the strategy of the game, because sometimes it is smarter to attract enemies to a place where you can use a trap or launch an object than simply try to win everyone in the hand-to-hand. For me, this adds a tactical charm almost of a puzzle within the action, something rare in the genre. In the end, this creative and multifaceted use of the environment reinforces Double Dragon Revive as a title that respects its roots, but is not afraid to innovate and expand the possibilities of combat and immersion, bringing to the player a richer and more dynamic experience than any classic Double Dragon offered. Double Dragon Revive brings an interesting evolution in the juggle system, something relatively rare in the old beat-em-up games. For those who are not familiar, juggle is this mechanic where you can keep the enemies in the air with sequences of blows, expanding the combo and increasing the damage. This here is not just a visual ornament, but a system designed so that you explore more elaborate combos and advanced techniques in combat. A true gift for fans who like to delve into the gameplay. What impresses me is how the game integrates juggle with the complex combo system in a natural way. It's not that combo that you only learned by memorizing, but something that flows according to the mastery of the commands, positioning of enemies, and timing. You can, little by little, evolve from the basic to impressive plays, all within the same system. This creates a very satisfying learning curve for new and veteran players who like to master the technical game. This depth in the combos transforms the fights into an almost dance experience, a choreography between you and the enemies, where each chained blow can be felt with weight and purpose. You can feel in the skin the difference between hitting a simple combo and a more complex combo with juggle, which greatly increases the pleasure of evolution as a player. Unlike the old ones, which had a limited and repetitive style, here, everything seems designed so that you feel really capable and stylish at the time of the fight. Another aspect that I like a lot is how the system rewards experimentation. The game allows you to seek your own style of combos, trying different combinations, alternating types of blows and special attacks, which brings a creative freedom that was lacking in the old versions. It is possible to feel really challenged to improve and find new ways to clean the screen without falling into the same thing. In addition, the juggle system works well together with the dynamic positioning of the enemy. That is, it is not enough just to press the buttons. You need to think about how to keep the opponent in height to give sequence to the combo, which introduces a very cool tactical layer within the classic gameplay style. For me, the inclusion of these more vigorous and complex mechanics makes Double Dragon Revive become, in essence, a much more competitive and rewarding game for those who invest time in perfecting their skills. I always feel challenged to get out of the basics and face the game with more technique, which is something that was lacking in many retro beat-em-ups. Finally, this system elevates the game beyond a simple beat-em-up, flirting with the universe of fighting games, a difficult balance to achieve, but that Revive fulfills with mastery, making the combat something rich and memorable for the public. One of the coolest points of Double Dragon Revive is the remarkable variety of playable characters, each with their own style and very different movesets. The Lee brothers, Billy and Jimmy, are the classics, but the game also introduces characters like Marion and Yagyu Ranzo, bringing diversity and new ways to face the battles. This variety completely changes the experience, because each character forces you to think differently at the time of combat, with unique blows and strategies of their own. I particularly like this freedom to experiment a little with each character, because you can alternate between faster, more technical, or more robust styles, depending on what combines with your way of playing. This gives a much greater longevity to the game, and avoids that feeling of more of the same that many old beat-em-ups presented. In addition, the personalization of the gameplay through the characters changes the rhythm of the game, making each phase and interaction with enemies a slightly different experience, which is great for those who seek different challenges and want to explore the maximum of combat. The only thing that I think is nice to emphasize is that this diversity in the characters is not only a visual question, but also technical. The gameplay really values the peculiarities of each one, making mastering a character mean understanding their identity and rhythm, which creates a more personal and rewarding relationship. Moreover, the presence of classic and new characters creates a legal balance between the traditional and the new, respecting the roots of Double Dragon, but also offering something fresh for longtime fans. This range of options impresses me even more, because it is not something seen in many beat-em-up games, which sometimes end up limited to a few characters. Here, you feel that each character brings a new layer of depth to the game. In the end, the variety of characters makes Double Dragon Revive not only more interesting to play on different occasions, but also excellent for multiplayer, where the combinations of different styles create very varied confrontations and cooperations. Double Dragon Revive represents a visual revolution in the series, bringing 3D models to characters and scenarios that really need a highlight. What pleases me most is how they managed to maintain the visual identity and the rustic charm of the franchise, even with this change to three-dimensional graphics. It is not a simple technical upgrade, but a stylistic reformulation that respects the roots and at the same time embraces modernity. The characters are full of details and expressions that give life to the action, and the animations flow in a very natural and impactful way. This expressiveness makes all the difference for me, because you can perceive the personality of each fighter in their movements without losing the weight of the blows and the strength of the fight. It is also worth mentioning the art direction, which was not lost in the transition to 3D and preserves that dirty and brutal urban visual so characteristic of Double Dragon. There is a perfect balance between stylized realism and nostalgia, which creates a rare visual impact for those who enjoy the genre. I found it incredible how the game uses dynamic lighting and visual effects to give a more cinematic atmosphere in moments of special blows and finalizations, which breaks the monotony of the old ones and increases the spectacle during combat. Even with the modernization, the visual does not leave the clarity aside, which for a beat-em-up is essential. In moments of intense fighting, I never lost visual control of the situation, something that for me was a failure in some previous 3D games. This care with the visual shows that the studio cared to deliver an experience that pleases both who is a hardcore fan and who is arriving now, making Double Dragon Revive a perfect bridge between generations. For me, this visual evolution gives a gas to the series, attracting new players and printing a strong identity to the game, which stands out among other beat-em-ups that try the 3D and end up losing the soul. Another point that deserves to be highlighted in Double Dragon Revive are the accessibility options and the customization of the difficulty. The game seems to be very attentive to both the more casual public and the hardcore players, offering configurations that allow you to adjust the challenge according to your moment and style of play. From my own experience, I have already seen how fundamental these options are to maintain the player's interest. It is no use a game being difficult for a few and frustrating for many. Revive understands that, to maintain a healthy community, it is necessary to allow adjustments in the curve so that both new fans and veterans can enjoy without excessive barriers or discouragement. The options go beyond the basics of adjusting the life and damage of the enemies. The game allows fine alterations, such as configuring the number of scalded enemies or adjusting how punitive the combo system is, which is an interesting differential. This allows you to make a custom game if you want more frantic action or more technical challenge. I also like that the game has functions that help players with difficulties, such as blocking automatic low attacks to avoid stun lock, which improves the experience for those who are not experts in complex combos, but want to enjoy the story and the action. Another positive point is the possibility of changing the difficulty during the progress, which for me is a relief in action games where you do not want to be stuck in a specific point. This demonstrates a sensitivity of the studio with the comfort of the player. The concern with accessibility and multiple difficulties shows that Revive does not want to be just a tribute to old fans, but a game that welcomes different audiences and levels of skill, valuing the pleasure of the game more than the extreme punishment. In my view, this attention to the customization options makes the game much more inclusive and fun for everyone, ensuring that more people have the chance to get involved with the title at their own pace, something that I recognize as an important advance for games of the genre.
Turning back, I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong, you will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate I attack.